difference is all I know. Guys, all I can tell you, it's a great day on a Sunday, man. The sun's out, and we all are smiling on here. Can you believe that after a game that actually meant something? And hey, look, for the record, for Wade and Randy, I called it, didn't I?
You did call it, but Brett, I'm going to preface my statement back to you.
I knew you were going to preface it. I knew you were going to preface it.
You know how often you've called it over the last 15 years and have been dead wrong.
You know what?
I can't count all of them.
You know what? I mean, you can't just let a guy relish the moment. You got to always have a preface. Hey, you know how many times you screwed up? I feel like Payton Thorne. I finally won a game. Hey, everybody, welcome in, man. We are having a good time today. We've got Randy, Andy, and Uncle T-Bone here, and myself, Brett. We want to get your comments. We're on YouTube and Facebook, and you can tune us in. Would have loved to have all of us gone live last night, but there was a little bit of a melee after the game. I enjoyed it, to be honest with you. I almost got killed a couple times, but it was going to be worth it if I did. But guys, Auburn wins a 4 overtime thriller, 43-41. We'll just go around the room, and I'll just get all of your thoughts first on this game, and then we'll dive into it.
Andy, since you're the boss most of the time, Brett, you're going to have to tell us who you want to have.
Okay, let's go Andy, Randy, and Wade, and then we'll just follow that little
alphabetical.
Hey, look, it was obviously, I left and I told the guy I was with, it's been so long since I left this stadium and been this happy. I can't even remember the last time that I was at a home game and came away feeling so positive about an Auburn football game, just in particular, and about a team. Feeling good for those seniors. I mean, on senior night, to be able to leave, so much mess the last couple of years, but to go out on that kind of high on senior night, I felt so good for them. I felt so good for everybody involved, but we've been talking about it for 2 years, and especially this year, about how this team finds a way to lose. And we've been talking about when is a guy or several guys going to step up and make the plays to win games. And lo and behold, we go up 21-0, and then it just seems like the same old story is happening right before my eyes. And I know I'm just going to go away with my heart ripped out. But they found a way to go down and tie the game, get it to overtime, and then just make play after play, and different guys stepping up. And look, it's one game. It was glorious. I'm glad that it happened. Maybe we'll look back and say, this was the game. This was the game when this team learned how to win. And we'll see it moving forward, and it'll be a great moment. Maybe it won't. Maybe nothing will change. But for today, I'm happy.
All right, here's my first statements from last night. I was sitting around a lot of Texas A&M fans. My seats are a couple of sections over to the right from where the visiting crowd that comes in is sitting. So a lot of Texas A&M fans, and a lot of them had found Auburn tickets, by the way. And my thoughts before the game, if you were there and you witnessed the show that was put on in that stadium last night, I'm not talking about the football team. I'm talking about the pregame. I'm talking about the national anthem, God Bless America, the flyover to the halftime show with the band. And a majority of my thoughts last night were, this is such a great fan base and such a great venue and so many rabid fans sitting around me. And I was watching the Texas A&M fans with their phones up, and a lot of them are getting their first reaction to what's going on at Jordan-Hare Stadium, Auburn, Alabama. They haven't had the opportunity to come over, and you could see that they were enjoying it. But I was thinking to myself, man, what a great place to be, and what a great group of fans to be a part of. And we deserve better than what we've gotten over the last 15 years. We're rabid football fans that has a tremendous tradition, but we haven't been consistently good for the last 15 years. And it was very, very nice to see us get over the hump and win a football game last night. But my takeaway was this thing, if it gets going in the right direction, Brett, Wade, Andy, if we get this thing going in the right direction and Alabama continues to come back to the fold, which we'll talk about that to close things out, there's no telling where we could end up. I've always felt that way, but I maybe even more than ever felt that way last night, just sitting there watching the reaction from some fans that had never been in Jordan-Hare Stadium before.
It's well said. I want to go back in recent history 2 weeks ago to the Vanderbilt game when you mentioned a game where maybe finally something happened where we can turn the corner. Maybe we hit rock bottom after that disappointing loss as a football program, and the players and the coaches said enough's enough and decided to start moving in a different direction. And I say that because against Vanderbilt, we ran the ball only 20 times with all three of our tailbacks for 97 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. And I had some comments on a show I was on yesterday morning that I don't know right now still if Auburn is man enough to get into an old school rock fight like Auburn is known for doing, and doing two things really well, running the ball and playing defense. Well, last night, Jarquez Hunter had 28 carries alone for 130 yards, 4.6 yards an average, 3 touchdowns. It opened up the entire playbook and the playmaking ability on play action to receivers. And it's what Auburn fans like me have been searching for a long time. And it's an identity on offense, the one that I can relate to growing up with. And I think that Auburn, hopefully our coaches have turned the corner. They realize that in this type of atmosphere with this type of program, you're going to have to get really physical. And for Auburn to be successful, they have to be physical. There's some momentum that Auburn has all of a sudden. And I hope we don't sleep on a win and we capture that momentum and ride it into Tuscaloosa and have turned the corner finally once and for all, like Mr. Andy said.
Well, guys, we'll just start with the game itself. And the first thing I had on here was the atmosphere. It doesn't get any better than night. I got a chance. I had the opportunity to have my family on the field last night. I'll go into that later, how all that worked out. But that was not planned. But, sometimes things just happen. So we got to be on the field for warm-ups and pregame and all the stuff that you get to experience. And I got to talk to a former LSU player who was there on the field that was a GA under Hugh. And he had a lot of former players there last night from Ole Miss and all. So I had a chance to talk to some of those guys. He looked at me and he had his girlfriend. He said, look, I played at LSU. He said, there's nothing compared to this. He said, man, I texted all my buddies at LSU. He said, when I walked in the recruiting plaza, he said, I told him, LSU better step it up, man. He said, Auburn's coming. He said, Auburn's got it going. And he and I were just talking about how Auburn can't get it done on the field, but this atmosphere and the fans and they just keep showing up. And Randy, we talk about it all the time. No, we do our part. And a lot of times the team just can't figure out a way. And we've gotten in this funk over the last 3 years where we figure out ways to lose. And it felt like that again. You jump out 21-0, look like you're going to run them out of there. and all of a sudden Texas A&M makes a play or whatever, and then they have it where they're able to get the ball, score right before half, get the ball to come back in, and we're all sitting there on the text thread going, well, here it is. Before you blink, it'll be 21-all. And it was. It'd come out in the third quarter. They drive all the way down the field, shove it down our throat. We have the most anemic 3 plays you can have and go 3 and out, punt to them. They hit a big play, and immediately it's 21-all, and you went, well, there it is. It's right back to where we are. But then KLS makes a catch, guys. And I told all of you this morning. I think he may be one of the best receivers in Auburn history. He's not going to go down as that because he's only been here 1 year. But the catches he makes, I sent y'all pictures. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he humanly caught the daggum ball. There is some voodoo in Jordan Hare because somehow he morphed through a guy's arm and caught 2 passes. And so Auburn goes back up 28-21. Texas A&M hammers it out, ends up taking the lead there late in the fourth quarter. You thought there's no confidence that Auburn's going to drive down here and tie or win this game, and they did it. But I will say this, and I'll start here and I'll go around the room. 1st and goal to 7 with a chance to win the game, we looked like a junior high team. We looked all out of whack. We didn't have the right personnel in there. Coaches were all over the place. He just didn't know what to do. Had Damari Austin in there. Should have had Jarquez Hunter in there. It just looked all discombobulated, and you thought, well, we just blew it because we should have beat them in regulation. Now we got to go to overtime with this running around quarterback they got, and we're not going to win. So I'll go around the room there. I'm proud of how we got to overtime, but we should have won in regulation.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, as far as being up 21-0 and running them out of the stadium, I don't think anybody would expect us to run them out of the stadium. I mean, Texas A&M is a good team. I knew they were going to make a run, and I knew they were going to come back. Now, could have Auburn handled it better? Probably. We kind of went into our normal shell, but for that, we had 9 penalties in this game last night. I mean, we averaged coming in less than 6, which was number 1 in the SEC. And all of a sudden we start having, just procedure penalties at the worst possible time. We had a couple of penalties that I didn't think were penalties that got called, but everybody has that happen from time to time. But I'm not sure. I'm just glad we made the drive because, to be perfectly honest, when we had the ball with 4 minutes to play and we had 2 sacks and punted the ball back, we did have 3 timeouts, but buddy, people were filing out. They were filing out next to me, and I thought, well, do I leave now or do I stay to see? We got a chance here, and for the defense to step up and get us the ball back like that, to just give us a chance to do that. Again, it was a total effort to do that, and I guess that's one of the things that I was so proud of.
Last night, I'm more worried about the kicking game than I was anything else to close it out. I thought we'd move the football down the field and possibly get into field goal range, but then we'd get up there and shank it and miss it. And that hasn't been something that us as Auburn fans have been used to, is to sit around and worry about the kicking game and worry about whether we're going to make a field goal when we need to, or worry about whether our punting game is going to step up there and actually hit one up to par. But last night, I'll tell y'all what my dad called a little bit earlier, and he said, Randy, did I remember Malcolm being a great kicker, a great punter at Benjamin Russell? I said, you sure do. He's probably one of the best high school punters I've ever seen. He said, well, you think somebody can call down there and let them know that he's on the roster? And if we need somebody to step up there and at least kick the ball 40 yards and not let it hit the ground before we kick it away, that he's a potential for that. Man, that was the great part of the closing out the game, is our field goal kicker, though, stepping up there and making some big-time kicks with all of that pressure. And I don't care if it was a field goal or an extra point. just a ton of pressure on that young man that has only really been kicking at Auburn for a couple of weeks. He's a big storyline for last night to give us a chance to win that game. But the punting game was – could y'all believe the punting game that we saw last night for Auburn?
Well,
when's the last time you felt like our kicking game was at the level that it is right now?
1990 with Richie Neal.
You got a great memory there, Wade. It's been that long ago.
Richie Neal, man. Richie Neal. Good Lord.
Coming off 3 back-to-back All-American punters with
Right.
Schumann and Colbert, and I forgot who the other one was. And in 1990, Richie Neal came in, couldn't kick it 35 yards per average. And at one point, I think that they even had to turn to Robert Baronis to help out there.
They did.
And so you're right. How is Auburn going to be successful, in college football? Pat Dye says it best. You have to outwork the competition, and your special teams especially have to be better. That's one of the few places Auburn can get an advantage over time recruiting against the likes of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, all the big-time state schools. Brett, you mentioned atmosphere. I did not go to the game, but you could just tell it was electric on television. You mentioned LSU's atmosphere. They continually get night games by the SEC, and that's something that I think Lane Kiffin is correct about. It needs to stop. Midway through the third quarter, I don't know if y'all have seen pictures of Tiger Stadium down in Baton Rouge against Vanderbilt. They had whole sections again leaving.
Yeah, I think they're done with Brian Kelly.
I think they're done with him as well. And then we get our comments from our old friend Nick Saban on ESPN Game Day yesterday. Quote, well, I'd be alerting Texas A&M because, in my opinion, 17 years going to Auburn and playing at Jordan-Hare, that place is haunted. I guarantee it. The way we lost games and the way we won games there, it's unbelievable. What about those 3 prior trips you made while you were the coach at LSU, Coach?
No doubt. Never could win it.
This is something, you say it. I don't want to use LSU statement, but is the magic back in Jordan-Hare? Have we finally turned the corner? I don't know. This is just one game. And I don't want to, and I'm here to celebrate this win today. We all know what happened this season, what could have been. But if the Tigers will take this momentum, and I think that they smell a little blood in the water now, and jump on it, it could be the game that finally turned everything back in time. I don't think that Auburn fans have been fully behind anybody or even close to it since the 2019 Iron Bowl when we walked off that field a winner. Boy, it'd be sure nice to go ahead and get one this week and everyone get united again behind this coaching staff.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Hey, I want to dive into some obvious things that get missed when you get elated after a big win. We didn't really stop A&M all night. That's a little concerning. They drove down the field to start and missed a field goal. They come back, drive right back down the field, and we pick a pass off. He just made a bad throw. And that was part of the perfect storm of us jumping up 21-0. They only punted twice, I think, all night. And Jason Caldwell, a good friend of all of ours, called me this morning. He and I were just talking, and he said, we've got to figure out a way to get pressure with our front guys. That's the problem. Against scrambling quarterbacks, and we're going to see a scrambling quarterback in Jalen Milroe next week. And against Arkansas, we didn't do well. Against Cal, we didn't do well. We're not getting pressure against Oklahoma. That ended up being what cost us. You got guys that can move around, and that guy last night caused all types of fits because we have to blitz to bring pressure. And when we do that, it opens up places. And again, Auburn still needs to add some key pieces to get better on the defensive front. It was a perfect storm to start that game, but it was a little smoke and mirrors because A&M drove down the field pretty easily all night. But credit our defense for standing up and doing what they did when they had to do it and finding ways. I like DJ Durkin. Auburn has a top 15 defense in the country, and they found ways. He found ways to get pressure and cause enough disruption to get us to overtime. And then let's talk about the overtime period, guys. I thought Auburn played it about as well as you can play it. And, Randy, you said it. Ian Vacon is maybe the MVP of this game because without him, Auburn doesn't win. Right. And he missed an earlier field goal that looked horrible. And I thought here we go. This kid, the pressure's too much today. He did good against Louisiana Monroe, but he can't cut it in this environment. Well, he shut everybody up because that field goal in overtime was massive. It saved us. If he shanks that one, it's over. And he nailed it, got us into the next to the 2-point conversions, and Auburn was able to make plays, and Texas A&M wasn't. They just dropped the ball, and everybody around us said, "Look, man, it's our time for somebody to just not make a play for the other team. We need some help. Can somebody just drop a pass?" And they did it. I mean, they did it. And A&M had the perfect play call. I love their play call. Their design was perfect. Their execution was not there. And look, it was a tough throw, but the kid should have caught the ball. But we know that's football. He didn't, and we stormed the field. But overtime, 4-overtime thriller. You know, if I look at it hindsight, this may have been the best way to win this football game and snap all this crap, is to jump up big, face adversity against a top 15 team, and find a way to win in front of all those recruits. Because all I'm hearing right now is how elated all those recruits were last night and running on the field. Look, I know that we all talk about running on the field, but these 17, 18, and 19-year-old kids, man, they just love a party. They love a great environment. There's not one better at Auburn when we win.
You know, you say, and you're exactly right. I mean, to me, Marcel Reed's underrated. I mean, that guy, they came out. You know, Texas A&M averaged 212 yards a game rushing. I think we held them to 160 something or 190 something.
They had 167 yards rushing.
167 yards. We had 168.
Yeah, we had one more they did.
I mean, we held them to under 400 total yards. I mean, we held them under their average, and yet they still moved the ball at will. But we're going to see that next week as well. A big athletic quarterback, Auburn. Yeah, and you know, at the beginning of the year, and it's hard to think back because this defense has gotten so much better, and we're playing some guys in the secondary. But at the beginning of the year, we couldn't cover anybody. I don't think we covered anybody for about 6 games, and we all said, well, I mean, we just have to blitz every play, because if you give the quarterback any amount of time, he's going to find somebody. That's what it felt like last night. It was just pitch and catch. Every time he got the ball, I mean, I don't know if we were playing so far off or what, but every time he dropped back and he had time, there were guys running open. So maybe it was just a bad matchup. Maybe the schemes we're running were not perfectly aligned or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure they'll come back and say it. But overall, when you look at it, I mean, we held them probably under their average significantly rushing the football, but probably across the board in every place except the scoreboard. And they could say the same for us as well. But, I'm like you. We talked about this last week. How much is it? How much was a win over Texas A&M or the Iron Bowl worth? And why do you keep playing Payton Thorne? Give the guy credit. Look, we've been saying it all year. He found a way. He almost screwed the pooch. He gave them that 3 points that we were chasing the rest of the game.
That was a bad.
But when the game was on the line, the man, that 4th and 2, broke it up the middle for that long run, led us down there, got the field goal, made the passes that won the game. Brett, you've been saying, when's this guy going to ever win a football game? 300 yards passing,
he did
2 touchdowns. He did it.
He did it. And tip of the hat, because about halfway through the game, I thought it was another crapping of the bed. So, all right, Randy.
Well, I'm going to give y'all a couple of more comments, and then I'm going to step off, and I got some wild kids running around out here at the lake with Thanksgiving. So I'm just glad.
Are you thankful for that? I'm thankful
for it, and I'm thankful for this weather. I'll tell you that. It is beautiful. If you're not outside,
it was cold last night.
It was cold last night. Hey, it wasn't bad in the stands, though, was it, Andy? As long as you had some people around you, it didn't get very cold. When I started,
the temperature dropped in the 4th quarter, though. It dropped.
It did. But great fan support. It was a great night. Here's some positive thoughts. I'm going to leave this with all positive going out. First off, atmosphere through the roof. We can't ask for Auburn University. We need to start there. And all of the facilities managers, I know Braden's part of that, Brett, but the field looked magnificent. I know that it was the last scoreboard night behind us over where I sit, and I saw some really good pictures of that. But, there'll be another video board that way, so the student body will be able to kind of check out what's going on, because I do enjoy our seats being able to look right across and at the big screen. Everything that goes with that's top of the line. I feel like we've got all the pieces in place to have one of the top 5 football programs in the country. We got a fan base, we got a university. We just got to get all the other pieces. Here's the great part of last night. We rushed the ball for 168 yards, and we really got nothing from the quarterback position running the football. We get somebody in there truly dual threat. We rushed the ball for 240 to 250 last night, and I think we're looking for that piece. I think that's the guy that we're going after. Even if it's Walker White, I think he'll add that type of game to the mix. But Payton Thorne played great football, and he has played great football the last half of this year. You say it all the time, Brett. You're no longer negative on him at all. We shouldn't be. His numbers deserve better than the product that we put out there. And last night was almost proof positive that we're trying to win football games despite the coaching we're getting at times. Because to close the game out last night, I'm scratching my head like, can we just get a play call in? Can we get the timing right? Can we stop making silly penalties? It's so frustrating. But there were a lot of positives that went along. I think lines of scrimmage play, I think we're very close. Jarquez made some nice runs after contact, but we were blocking pretty well also, and we were getting after it. And Cam Coleman's a star. It's about to start. I mean, he's going to be our first 1,000-yard receiver, and gosh only knows how long. You can throw it out there, Wade. I know it's Ronnie Daniels. We've had some been close. But Cam Coleman, if he doesn't get well over 1,000 next year, there's a problem. There's some substitution things that go on, but I just think we've got a lot of pieces in place that as the years move on, I'm a little more positive than I was, and hopefully we'll close. And I'll tune into y'all, but hopefully you can talk a little bit about the recruiting last night, because I'm sure Jason updated you, Brett, on some of the recruiting news. We had a ton of them in there, and it was a great night for us to win. We needed that win for a few of those guys to see that. I'm hoping Naheem Alford becomes an Auburn Tiger. That's the first one that I'm going to say right here. I hope that we can close. I know we're close to getting him, and it would be great to have some positive news coming up. But War Eagle, all of y'all, I'll stay tuning in, and y'all have a great Thanksgiving.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
War Eagle, buddy.
Thank you, Randy.
I want to go real quick to Andy mentioning Marcel Reed being underrated. Not only am I saying that he's underrated, I'm saying right now he's the best quarterback that Auburn has seen this season. 25 of 35, 297, 3 touchdowns, and an interception on a wayward throw. That offense that they run with Cody Klein, former K-State quarterback, I believe, calling the plays, is designed perfectly for him. He is an athlete, but he's also very refined in the pocket. So it's the difference between him and Jalen Milroe is I just don't still believe that Milroe is very refined in the pocket. This Marcel Reed guy is on his way to being the next Damian Craig of the SEC.
He looked like that, Wade. I said that last night. He reminded me the way he ran the football and the way he throws on the run.
Yes.
Man, he's dangerous. That guy's just a freshman. I hate to cut you off, Wade. I'll let you continue, but I'm going to tell y'all, that dude, everybody better watch out for Texas A&M over the next several years. That guy right there, he's one of the best I've seen poised as a freshman. He was in full control, and A&M's got a bright future. I know that one stung them last night. I got to be around a lot of great A&M fans. Their fans are great, man. I mean, they are. I hope they beat Texas next week, to be honest with you. I'd love to see that, but they got to get their stuff kind of riled back in. But you continue on, Wade. That he is Marcel Reed's one of the best I've seen as a freshman.
I want to remind people too, Auburn fans, that there were 2 highly rated tailbacks that did not play for A&M last night. Reuben Owens, who got hurt before the season, a 5-star, and LeVayon Moss, and also a 5-star who was not out there. So just think about when they get those guys back along with Marcel Reed and the type of offense they run. They're very dangerous, and they're always going to have athletes on the defensive side of the ball. One player I think they underutilized last night was Terry Bussey. That is a talented young man that they were moving into the backfield, and they had a little bit of early success with him getting him the ball, and they just stopped going to him. So he's somebody that Marcel Reed can throw out of the backfield. I think they can beat Texas. I think Quinn Ewers is very vulnerable right now, and that place will be going bananas for the first time since 2011. And that would put Texas A&M in the SEC championship game against Georgia. And as for running on the field, there's some rival fans of ours that kind of like to make fun of that because they would never Andy Graham charge the field after a big victory. But I want to remind folks, and especially those folks that are listening, that Auburn has been through hell since 2019. I don't know if your fan base could have taken it like we've taken it. And quite frankly, that was nothing but built up frustration.
That's all it was.
So many near misses for so long, and you could see it. There was no stopping what was coming. The last time Andy Graham Auburn beat a ranked opponent,
I don't know. I'm not that old.
Halloween Saturday night.
Actually, Ole Miss.
First year in an year that was like the one last night.
Wade, let me just say this. What the hell's wrong with having fun in life?
Nothing.
Is there a law against having fun? Is there a law against celebrating? Is there a law against celebrating the moments? You're so damn cocky and so aristocratic that you can't enjoy a win. And I know you don't run the field. Look, but in a game of 4 overtime thriller like that, and like you said, the moment kind of, if we win that game by 2 touchdowns in regulation, we probably not storming the field.
No,
let's be honest about it.
No,
but these players have worked their ass off, and to try to get to a moment like that. Look, I'm speaking it on personal level for my son, who has to work 6 days a week at that field and make sure it's in the situation, and had to stay 3 hours about after the game last night to clean up all the junk that was on the field. So, hey, look, you want to talk about a group that wish somebody didn't rush the field? It's the grounds crew. Because that's their baby out there, man. That's how much they take care of that field and those shrubs. Guess who tomorrow, while everybody else goes home for Thanksgiving, will be in that stadium probably pulling up shrubs and continuing to clean up stuff. But man, life's short.
Little blowtorch.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, life's a little short, man. So I understand that there's act like you've been there before. But it's okay to have fun, too. And last night, I wouldn't trade last night for anything. It didn't mean anything, really, in the big scheme of things. We didn't win a championship. We didn't do any of that stuff. And normally, the only time Auburn really ever rushes the field is if you win the Western Division like we did in the past, or you have some major win like a kick 6. But I've been to many Iron Bowls where we beat them in there, and we didn't storm the field. Hell, we didn't storm the field in 17. When we beat them by 2 touchdowns. So I don't understand. I mean, look, go have some fun, man. Maybe that would be something that would help Alabama fans a little bit. They're busting at the seams to want to do that. Deep down they love watching other teams do that, and they go, man, I'd love to experience that, but my image is so up here, I would be looked down upon because they spend a lot of time making fun of everybody else that rushes the field. And you know what? Teams, and I know they ride that, hey, only teams rush the field after they beat Alabama. And that's great. Your program's in a situation where that happens. But, again, last night was an outlier. We've never rushed the field when we beat Texas A&M or anybody for that matter much other than an Alabama win. And it meant something really big. So, hey, look, I'm fine with it. I'm glad to see our kids and the students and all the fans get out there and have a great time enjoying a big win last night and a beautiful night in Jordan Air.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I was sitting in there I was surprised. I was not expecting that. But when the 2-point conversion failed and they rushed, I just saw this mass of humanity rushing. I thought, really, we're rushing the field after Texas A&M. But Wade's argument that hit home. He won me over in the first thing he said. I mean, I thought, it's been how long since we've even had a winning season? I mean, this is the biggest win we've had that I can't even remember. So leaving home, yes, absolutely. Go, as long as nobody gets hurt, storm the field, have some fun. The fact that the sight of KLS body surfing through the crowd in the middle of Jordan Stadium and loving every minute of it. That guy deserved it, and that was worth it all.
Randy mentioned the recruiting last night and the number of recruits, and several of those recruits also rushed the field and had a good time. And there were some big names out there, some that are committed to Auburn, some that they're recruiting for next year that are committed to Auburn. In the class of 2026, a laundry list of big-time recruits and a few big names for this year as well. Obviously, the Deuce Knight name is the one at quarterback from Mississippi who was once committed to Notre Dame, flipped his commitment to Auburn, has been rumored to be flipping to Ole Miss. Thank you, Lane Kiffin, for going Lane Kiffin again down in Gainesville yesterday. We can get into some other games here shortly, but those recruits like that kind of stuff, the light shows, the speakers, the music, the fun, and that's what they want to play around. And at least Auburn, during all these times of struggle, going back all the way to 2020, the last time we had a winning season, and it wasn't much of one, I can tell you that, has maintained this presence of excitement. And Randy keeps preaching this, and he's right. If Auburn can just finally get it together a little bit, they can make some massive strides to a more consistent national presence and prominence and relevancy, because it's a special place. It's got good folks and fans who refuse to quit on the program no matter how much we scream Jabba, just Auburn being Auburn. And I was screaming it midway through the third quarter last night, guys. I admit it. But by God, I'm not going to quit being a fan, and I know every other Auburn fan will not, no matter what. And like I said, with that kind of support, that kind of backing, that kind of atmosphere, if Auburn can just get the right pieces together, it could pop like Clemson has popped over the last 10 years under Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, you know who else needed that win more than anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Hugh Freeze.
He sure did.
There was not a quality win under his belt in nearly 2 years. And so, I think, he needed it more than anything. The recruits needed to see it. We can go into we could go into a whole nother show. I'm not going to do that on all the guys that were there, but there's a couple that really stood out. Justice Terry from Georgia was there. Now, again, I don't know. I mean, he's going to be a hard pull from Georgia. Naeem Offord from Parker High School, who continues to visit Auburn, continues to be high on Auburn. I'm going to go ahead and say that at the end of the day, he comes to Auburn. He signs with Auburn. I know he's been a long-time Ohio State commitment. But, man, there's a connection with him and a lot of those guys. And Deuce Knight was there again last night. And I can go down the list of top-rated recruits of the, Jaira Edwards, one of the top safeties, from in the 26 class who has Auburn in the top 3 was there. And a lot of guys that were already committed to Auburn were there helping sell this deal. And as you saw Hugh Freeze in the locker room after the game, he looked over at the recruits. He said, "Y'all get your butt on over here and let's get this thing done." So it was a big night. it was a magical night for maybe not winning for something other than getting everybody re-energized and putting on a show for those recruits. And that's going to help us get back to where we want to be and where we want to compete as a program. So just glad it ended the way it did. It was a great night. Again, you're not going to a championship game. It didn't mean anything that way, but Auburn still has a chance at a bowl game, and they go up against a team that's reeling a little bit. Alabama's had a roller coaster year, and we'll dive into that real quick before we get out. It was a crazy day in the SEC yesterday. Like you said, you kind of smelled what the Rock was cooking down there in Florida. Florida been playing better. DJ Lagway, and it was about prototypical for Ole Miss to roll on down there. And I don't know what in the hell Jackson Dart was doing in the fourth quarter. I mean,
interceptions.
I've never seen anything like it. Like, dude, he threw one and they somehow dropped it and got another shot at it, and he threw it right back to him again. I mean, he melted down. Credit Billy Napier. His seat's been red hot, and he's turned their program around. I bet he wishes he'd have played DJ Lagway to start the season, but nevertheless, they're playing better. I mean, and then you look at Alabama, Oklahoma, and then you look at the Auburn and Texas A&M game, man. Look, it's on the road in this conference. Let's just be honest about it. Hey, Vandy went down to LSU and almost won that game, but it doesn't matter how bad of a year you're having. When you go on the road in this conference, man, and if you play subpar ball, you're probably going to lose. And nobody saw Alabama going to Norman, Oklahoma and kicking a field goal. Now, they did. I'll say it. And as much as it pains me, they had a horrific call in that game. They took a touchdown off the board and a great catch by Ryan Williams. And I thought we had a horrific call in overtime on a freaking offensive pass interference that almost probably would have cost anybody else the game. You know, if it just hadn't been in the moment and we played through it, I told everybody around me, I said, well, that BS call right there is probably going to take it out away from us and cost us, because I was worried about us kicking a field goal too and living to move on to play another day. But we somehow overcame it. But I think I think Oklahoma wins the game anyway. But Alabama had a bad call, and that was the same refereeing crew that was in the Texas Georgia game.
Yeah, I think they came back and confirmed that was not.
It was not?
Yeah, I'm going to have to double check that.
Okay, well, everywhere I've seen it was.
Yeah,
that makes it worse, Wade, because that means there's another crew out there that screwed it up, and then add the crew that was in Auburn to it as well. I mean, the referee, and look, it's easy to get on here and bash officials, but some of these calls, man, in these crucial times of these games with so much riding on them, is crap, dude. I mean, it's unacceptable, man. You should be fired. You should have an evaluation, and if you can't do better than that. And what we've all talked about, Andy, is they need to pay these officials like it's their real job. We don't need, a guy that drives a Sunbeam truck and delivers bread 5 days a week, put on a refereeing outfit on Saturday and go fly somewhere and become an official. Or we don't need a school superintendent to become an official on Saturday. You know, I mean, we need the SEC with all their billions. Pay these freaking referees like some of these coaches and get these guys trained up with all they do, because we have the police on the field that police these games, and they're making $2 in a quarter, and everybody else is out here with billions riding on these games, and we expect them to just come out here and be perfect. So start paying them like that with all this riding on the games.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. I think, if I remember right, the crew that worked that Texas game, that infamous Texas game, was the guy that was the former Alabama quarterback. David, I can't remember his last name.
Yeah,
former Alabama player.
Yeah.
I think that was the crew that worked that game. But I could be wrong, but I think that's right.
So I have Googled, and it said, and it's the internet, so who knows if it's true or not. But Stuart Mandel pointed out in an Athlon Sports article, it's the same officiating crew. There's another guy on Twitter who follows college football who's listed the names of both crews, and they do not match up. And I believe let's see, one second. The Georgia crew, he says the referee was Matt Loeffler. That would not be David Smith.
Yeah,
So,
David Smith. Yeah, David Smith is the former Alabama quarterback.
So, I mean, I think that's something that'll get hashed out over this week, whether it's the same people or not. A couple of things on that call that I understand for the Alabama folks out there. I thought what Kirk Herbstreit said was egregious. He just couldn't understand why on an illegal touching pass or call, the call wasn't made until the guy was down the field and caught it. That's why it's called illegal touching. Had he not touched the ball, in the ball not been thrown to the receiver, it would not have been illegal touching. So he was almost intimating that there was something sketchy going on with that call on national television. And in my opinion, he needs to clarify his comments, and somebody needs to clarify them. The only reason there was an illegal touching call there was because the referee thought he was covered up. That's very debatable, right? But once
he was not covered up.
I don't think he was either.
No.
But once the ball was thrown to Ryan Williams and he actually touched it and he deemed him covered up, that's why the flag came out then. So the conspiracy on that part of the side of it, I really felt like Kirk Herbstreit was pushing.
Well,
it's ridiculous. Secondly, it was one of the best catches I've ever seen. Too bad it was negated. But Alabama was also down 24-3 at the time. Could they have come back and got momentum? Sure. Not why they lost the game. They just no-showed the game and weren't prepared to play.
Yeah, Oklahoma, they caused fits for them up front all night, and they got pressure like we were talking about, what Jason Caldwell and I said, which concerns me about Auburn and Alabama is I'm not sure we can get enough pressure on Jalen Milroe with our front guys. And again, Oklahoma's defensive front's one of the best in college football. We saw it, right? And we saw when we were trying to come back after they had taken the lead, they didn't have to blitz, man. They just overpowered us and got in there where we couldn't even get a drive going to finish that game. So, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Crazy. College football, I think Alabama's not in the playoff now. A&M is not in the playoff now. So there's a psyche issue here of how to
if they beat Texas.
Well, yeah. 3 losses though. And if they win, they get the automatic. They get the automatic.
The SEC.
I know that. They got to get rejuvenated though after that loss. And Alabama doesn't.
Let me tell you who the biggest winner of yesterday was. Indiana.
They shouldn't be though, Andy. They shouldn't be.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be
with
though.
All these SEC teams losing, being three losses.
I know.
One loss to Indiana is saying, "Hey, we lost to the number 2 team in the country. That's our only loss all season."
And that's the only team they played. That's the only team
they go get in because of this.
Well, they were exposed. They are a complete fraud. You can say what you want to say about Kirk Cignetti and all that crap. They got the hell beat out of them. And that was the one audition tape for them. Now, you're right. They're going back in because everybody else crapped the bed yesterday. But they are going to back in. And you're right. Texas A&M can get to the playoffs by winning the conference championship or getting to the conference championship and winning that game. But that's still a tough road ahead of them, but they can get to the SEC championship game with a win over Texas. So they still have a good bit to play for. But Alabama, look, when was the last time Alabama lost 3 games in a season? Anybody remember?
2010.
2010. So look, again, first-year coach following Nick Saban, 3 losses, and could have had 5. Could have had 5. I mean, let's be honest about it.
Brett, I got a question for you.
Yep.
When was the last time Alabama lost 4 games in a season?
It'd have to be, was it 2007?
Because I can promise you this, there's a lot of Alabama fans bracing for that right now. And I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but Auburn folks smell blood in the water. They're coming up there.
Well, Auburn has nothing to lose, man. We're trying to get to a bowl game and extend our season. Alabama, it's Kalen DeBoer's biggest coaching job to date. Trying to regroup this team that is normally always in the playoff talk, always in a championship hunt talk, and they have none of that to talk about other than a little bit of pride to finish the season and a fan base that's going to be on edge. Let's be honest about it. And they're not happy with Jalen Milroe right now. They're not happy with a lot that's going on in Tuscaloosa. And we all knew that whoever followed Nick Saban was going to have a tall task. And he's finding out right now. We've seen bricks thrown through windows for a lot less. Okay. And I can say this. I mean, Kalen DeBoer loses to Auburn in his first year up there against this Auburn team.
Oh, yeah.
This team that will roll in there with 5 wins. Like, if I'm Auburn, I'm pulling everything I've got out of the bag. I'm trying every single thing I can to come away with a win, play loose. Nobody's expecting you to win. You're a 2-touchdown underdog. Basically, I think it's 11.5 now or something like that. But, hey, let it all hang out, man. You ain't won in Tuscaloosa since 2010, and Cam Newton's starting to get gray dreadlocks, okay? His dreads are turning gray. It's been so long. So it's time for maybe something to flip. You know, Alabama found a way last year to make a pass on 4th and 31. Why can't we roll up there with a team that's a little bit gimped, I guess, an Alabama team that is not bringing full mojo, and what will their attitude and mentality be going into this Iron Bowl? Everybody can say, well, it's still the Iron Bowl, and it is. But, you know, they're used to playing in the last 15, 18 years for national championships and SEC championships, and that's not on the table this year for them.
South Florida ran the football on Alabama. Vanderbilt ran the football on Alabama. Oklahoma ran the football on Alabama. Auburn can run the football on Alabama. And if we run, and if Jarquez Hunter has 100 yards, Auburn will be in it in the fourth quarter to win it.
I'm with you, Andy, and Brett. I don't think that Auburn has to come out and run all their triple Lindy type, reverse quarterback pass, Gus Malzahn trick stuff. I think we just got to go out there and do what we did against A&M, and that's establish a run. Only Mississippi State, LSU, and Kentucky have worse rushing defenses in the SEC this season. Now, when's the last time that happened? That team has done a terrible job stopping the run. Oklahoma did a fantastic job exposing it, and as those other teams did, like Andy said, that's a fan base right now that is manic, and DeBoer has had his ass handed to him in state in recruiting so far since he's been at Alabama. That is not debatable. Now, look, there's a couple of weeks left and anything can happen, but that's a fact. Auburn made it an emphasis to come in and get back into state recruiting in Alabama and build the relationships that Brian Harsin destroyed here. They've done a fantastic job with it. DeBoer has not made that same effort. That is a fact. And if Auburn goes in there in year one and they run it down Alabama's throat just like Oklahoma did, and they limit Jalen Milroe because, he's athletic runner, but when he scrambles, he's prone to put that ball down on the carpet like he did in last year's Iron Bowl. I think the whole key for Auburn is limiting the big plays, the big bombs, and making Milroe uncomfortable and limiting Ryan Williams, which is a lot easier said than done. If the Tigers do that and go up there and get a victory, and they do it a lot like Oklahoma did, where Milroe looks bad, all Alabama fans are going to come unglued. But that's a lot of big ifs and buts there, folks.
Well, I can say this. It does have a different feel going into the game with them losing and us winning the way we did. Let's just be honest. If we had found a way to lose again, and Alabama, even though they lost, I mean, it would be the same old malaise feel that we've all had. But that's it. That's exactly what it would be.
But Brett, winning begets winning. Being positive begets being positive. Being a loser begets being a loser and making bad choices. Auburn, folks, is on a 2-game winning streak. If they make it 3, this whole fan base unites around Hugh Freeze once and for all, and it's on.
I said this to Andy a few weeks ago on the show. I said, what would it be for us to finally close out a year with momentum instead of starting strong and petering out? What if we ran out? What if we won 3 or 4 games in a row? What if we went and scrapped and made it to a bowl game and won that one after coming off a signing day here in December where we think still going to be really good? It's going to put Auburn in maybe a top 5 situation class, and you got an Iron Bowl win to mix in there in the middle of that. And knowing you look back on the season and you go, man, we literally could not have played worse to lose 5 games. I mean, seriously. Well, you had to figure out a way to screw the Cal game, Missouri game, the Arkansas game. I mean, you had to just play horrific football to lose those games. Vanderbilt had to play horrific football to lose those games. Oklahoma, there's 5. We just blew it, guys. If we play halfway the way we played last night, we win at least 3 of those. And Oklahoma was the one that got away. Let's just be honest about it.
Oh, yeah.
We had them beat down, and we screwed that away. We had to give them the game, and we did. So when you look back on this year, it was more about what Andy said, Auburn's owing whatever it was in SEC play against themselves. It really wasn't about what the other teams had done. It was about what Auburn had done to themselves to lose. But if we can have a lot better feeling going into the offseason, and if we were to do what we're talking about here, and that's beat Alabama and go into a bowl game with some momentum, I think we'd have a different mindset this time going into a bowl game than the mindsets we've had the last 2 or 3 times. And it could be for a great offseason, man.
Well, it's a difference between hope and tangible evidence. I mean, look, beating Texas A&M, that was wonderful. That does it change anything? Like you said, absolutely not. It makes me feel a little bit better. And the fact that Alabama got embarrassed makes me feel even better. But if you win against Texas A&M, you go win the Iron Bowl, you win a bowl game, you get 15 extra practices with these young guys, that you have tangibly turned a corner. And we can all look at that, look at it next year with some actual reason to be hopeful. Brent, show me. Well, you win 3 in a row and win that bowl game, or win 4 in a row, win that bowl game. You show me something.
You got it. That's a lot to be shown. And, hey, you got to tip your hat for the fight of this team to keep going. I think they know more than anybody they've been their own worst enemy. It hadn't really been the other team that beat them a lot of times. There's only one game I'll concede, and that's Georgia. Now, if we had better quarterback play, better offensive game planning, I mean, we were still in that game in the 3rd quarter. But I'll concede. They were better than us. They beat us. It was on the road. I tip my hat. Cal and Arkansas and Oklahoma and Vanderbilt and Missouri all should have been wins for Auburn. If we just half-ass play on offense, we win those games. But we didn't. And we played terrible in all of them. We played terrible 4th quarter in Oklahoma. We played a terrible complete game against Arkansas and Cal. And then we should have beaten Missouri. We had them down pretty much the whole game. And we let a guy come back from the hospital, okay? Come back from the hospital and lead a 17-play drive to win. So.
Well, real quick, before y'all, how much time do we have?
No, we got about 2 minutes and we're going to get off.
Okay. I'm of the camp that we had Oklahoma and Missouri beat. Vanderbilt, to me, was still a 50-50 game the way we played. And I just don't think that we schemed or planned right for Cal or Arkansas, and we weren't going to win those games, and especially Georgia. That being said, there's at least 2 more victories we left out there. These players know it. These coaches know it. He said it last night, Hugh Freeze. I wish we could go back and replay some of those games. Here's the deal, Coach. Please remember this moving forward. You can't ever go back. So I think it's going to take max effort to win the Iron Bowl, just like it did this past weekend against Texas A&M. But if they'll do that and they'll make a commitment to that, both player, coaching staff, and fan, and support, and money, and recruiting, Auburn will get back on sound footing a lot quicker. Anything that jumps out next week about any of the games for rivalry week before we go, guys, especially the Iron Bowl?
Andy?
No, I mean, nothing. It's the same old thing. I mean, but going to Tuscaloosa's obviously been a very difficult place for Auburn to play the last several years. So, but it's the mindset more than it is anything else. But outside of that, no. I mean, I said I'll say one last thing, and it's not about Auburn. You were talking about it earlier. Look, I had buried Billy Napier after they got embarrassed by Miami. And then in the same breath, I looked at the schedule and said, if they win 7 games, he ought to be coach of the year. When they beat Florida State Saturday and they got 7 wins, he's got my vote.
Hey, they want to give Clark Lee, a guy that's, I know they've kind of petered out, but he was up for coach of the year talk. Why wouldn't Billy Napier be up for coach of the year talk? They played as good a football coming down the stretch as anybody under unbelievable adversity and under unbelievable angst from their fans. So, look, we're going to be talking Iron Bowl all week.
Yeah.
Again,
that's the team y'all mentioned. Indiana. That's the team to me that might have got the best shot of luck and biggest winner yesterday, just for basically doing nothing, and that's Tennessee. At 9-2, will travel to Nashville and play Vanderbilt to end the season. Right now, currently giving up an 11.5 points on scoresandodds.com. They get past that game, they're in the college football playoffs, no doubt. And I'll tell you another team, although they have 3 losses, who really should get more consideration, although they lost to Alabama, is South Carolina. What a monumental matchup. This is a playoff game, I think, in Clemson, South Carolina next Saturday. Clemson giving up 3 points to the Gamecocks. So it's going to be a fantastic week to talk a lot of exciting things, guys.
I'm done.
You're done. Hold on one second, guys. Keep going.
Okay. I'll take a real quick look at some of these other
Brett's got a call from the president he's got to take.
Yeah. Andy, Alabama opened up as a 15-point favorite according to scoresandodds.com. That's already dropped to 11.5. I kind of
how are they a 15-point favorite?
Well, where are the Alabama fans right now? I mean, where are they as a state of mind? I mean, are they just almost in a state of shock? Or is it just like, is it reasonable that they think that DeBoer just needs to get his type players in there for his system? Because I'm going to tell you something. I believe just about any coach who had been left, the talent that Nick Saban left Alabama, shouldn't have 3 losses.
I'll tell you, I had an Alabama fan sitting next to me last night.
Of course you did.
Of
course you did.
They are sick. Well,
never.
I will how much. They are sick of Jalen Milroe. Want him gone. Say they need a new defensive coordinator. Of course, they hated the last one as well, so they want him gone. And they think Auburn's going to come in there and Payton Thorne will look like a Heisman winner, and they're going to lose by 3 touchdowns. That's what they believe right now.
It's good to know that they feel the way we do sometimes. I mean, that's usually our weekly talk. Everything you just said, reverse it. That's usually what we feel like. So, look, we got all week to talk about this, guys. We appreciate all the comments that have been rolling in. We've been on a little over an hour. It was a great win last night. Nothing else we can say about it. 43-41. Got a win over a top 15 team, a much-needed win. And now we move forward and prep for Alabama. So it's Thanksgiving week. We got a lot to be thankful for, guys. And Auburn Blitz will be back on the air tomorrow. Andy and Jim will be with everyone, and we'll catch you in the morning. Randy and I'll be on the podcast at 8:00. Wade will be joining us throughout the week as well. He'll be coming up on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, to be on the show our noon Auburn Blitz show. So exciting stuff, guys. Makes the week a lot more exciting when you come off a big win the way we did. So,
War Eagle.
Well said, Andy. Nice talking to everybody. War Eagle, guys.
War Eagle. See you guys tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving.